Hey, afternoon, good morning, and welcome to another QnA webinar. My name is Ryan. I'm the goofy looking chap in the circle here. For those of you who haven't met with me before, appreciate you guys coming and attending our webinar series. For those who are current customers or have sat in on one of our webinars, I appreciate you guys coming back. Today we're going to talk about the tagline here, keeping your remote workforce engaged with an IT help desk, and really where it fits into this larger structure of this QnA picture. So last week we talked about our self-service portal, right? This layer of portals that you can apply within your SharePoint space, whether it's on-premise or Office 365, and have an area where you can send end users to submit requests across all of your departments or application service layer, or where technicians can go to have a mobile-friendly response to work tickets, to work requests, to view reports, to have roll-ups across many applications if they're working across different departments. Today, we're going to cover, like we talked about, our IT help desk, and this is really where we're going to dive into the application aspect of QnA. So last week I used the example of tip of the spear, right, with the employee self-service portal. Everything flows through the portals down to our different applications, and now we're really going to take a deep dive into our applications. So today we're going to cover a few different things. We're going to talk about Teams integration briefly. Real quick, we're going to touch on the portal again, just as a recap from last week, and then we're going to spend a good amount of time digging into the ins and outs of the help desk, and then maybe some Nitro Studio features as well towards the end of the webinar. And for those of you who are not familiar with Nitro Studio, what it is, it's the tools that we use to underline all of our applications, whether that's the portal or any of the guys you see here along the bottom. The reason that Nitro Studio came to be was, from our perspective, it was easier to create and admin applications on top of Office 365 or SharePoint on-premise if we controlled the tools to do so. Not a knock against what Microsoft offers out of the box, whether it be InfoPath or Designer, which are now deprecated, but now the new Power Platform, right? Great tools, good connections. They work in conjunction with Nitro Studio. Again, the reason that we use Nitro is because it provides a lot of functionality, maybe a little similar to InfoPath and what Forms offers out of the box. And it gives us the ability to really control the environment. I know one of the big things that I like, that I appreciate, is that our workflows and our forms are included. You have the ability to create within the application space that you purchased. So say we look at IT Help Desk in this case, you have the ability to change forms, add workflows, and not have to worry about a varying cost, right? Say with like Power Automate, where a workflow could be X amount, right? If you're not on that premium subscription. So we're not charging per user, we're just charging per site. And it really gives you the ability to take ownership of your application after the fact. So as we all know, everyone's requirements, organizational requirements are a little different. With the tools that we provide in Nitro Studio and the training that we provide on top of that, gives you the ability to create and control anything that you want within your help desk space. And we're going to cover that again towards the end of our demo. Real quick though, before we get into it, right now, QnA is working pretty feverishly into extending our offering into the Teams space. Teams is becoming more and more prominent, as well as, Teams is becoming more and more prominent now that we're working remote, or a lot of us are working remote due to the global health crisis, right? We are working in different locations just based on necessity. So I think Teams is now at the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and it's only gonna go up from here. And QnA wants to do everything it can to integrate itself into that team space. And right now, the most efficient way, or the best way that we found, is through our Teams bots. Now I'm going to show one today that's a ticket submission or a SharePoint list creation bot. But right now I'm going to turn it over to Scott Restivo, who's our CEO, and he's going to talk a little bit about what's coming in the bot space with QnA. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Hello, everyone. Yeah, as Ryan was talking about, Teams has become real prominent in the Office 365 space, and we want to be on top of that. So we have a number of Teams integrations going on now. You have to understand that if you're on premises, our help desk is perfectly fine running there. So when we talk about Teams, we're talking about additional capabilities inside the Office 365 space that you have when you use our help desk in that world, or any of our applications, really, not just the help desk. So what we have is several levels of team integration going on, Teams. So if you're in Teams, you can get notifications that tickets been submitted, been modified, been changed. We also have working on, like Ryan was saying, team bots, which are that they will answer people's questions, you know, in a bot type format where I'm having an issue with this, and can you look at certain, we'll present certain knowledge base articles to them or certain other pieces of information, possible solutions that could preempt their need to submit a ticket into the system. And there's also other integrations we're working on, and really the whole Teams bot and the Teams world is really new. So what we encourage people to do is to contact us and find out how you want to work in it. Some people want to go to the extent of creating a support channel, perhaps in Teams, where they're doing support primarily within that Teams channel, communicating back and forth with the end user through a kind of chat interface that Teams offers. So, you know, many possibilities, and we want to explore that and see what people want to present to their support desk or service desk situation, request management situation. Many ways we can use Teams to be very effective as an additional component in addition to SharePoint. And of course, we use Outlook also for notifications too. Now, one last thing, and we're going to have a webinar next Thursday, and a week from tomorrow, called Hot to Trot for a Bot. Is the clever title of it. And I'll be giving a presentation on Teams bots and Teams integration in general. So I won't go into it too much in detail right now. I think I'll just end right here, but basically make a point that if you go to our website, crowcanyon.com/webinars, you should be able to see the Hot to Trot for a Bot webinar, and you can sign up for that. And we'll have that taking place next Thursday at the 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, a week from tomorrow. What's that? April 16th. Sorry, excuse me, April 16th. So that's what I want to say. And as Ryan's pointing out here, there's also, you know, a lot to it: chatbots, natural language processing, email sentiment analysis, data optimization, Q&A makers. There's a lot we're doing with this whole world, and we'd be glad to discuss that further in more detail. And it's a whole world in itself, a whole webinar in itself. So come next Thursday, a week from Thursday, to learn more on that. Okay.
Appreciate you, Scott. Thanks for popping in. And Scott is going to be answering questions throughout the webinar as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot those over. He'll be answering those as I walk through the demo. And if he feels something is pointed or we need to take a deeper dive, he'll stop me and we can answer that question in more detail. So let's pop into it. I think Scott made a good point, and that's the differentiation between 365 and on-premise. Right now, the bot or the NLP is not available in the on-premise space. That's okay. You know, we have some other ways to interact with your employees, your end users, and we're going to get into that in our self-service portal. But just briefly, I kind of want to talk about what the bot would look like for those of you who have not seen it before. So let's pull my Teams over. So everyone is familiar with Teams, right? So as you can see, I've just popped in and said hello. And what we're doing really is we're trying to collect as much information as we can from our end user. So it's who am I, right? Signed in as Ryan. And what area do you need service for? Let's say IT in this case, since we're on an IT webinar. And it's going to prompt me to describe my problem. You know, my favorite is, forgot my password, right? We see that one a lot. So now what it's doing, as you can see, it's typing, it's thinking. Scott touched on it a little bit, but it's like, okay, what KB articles, what knowledge base articles do I have related to this quote unquote forgot my password subject? And what it's doing is it's exhausting itself to try to find everything it can to put in front of our end user to say, okay, here are the ways that you can self-service, right? Solve the problem before we take any further steps. And then it gives us a prompt. Okay, so here are the articles that match your problems. What do you want to do with it? Well, maybe you have those proactive end users to say, all right, my issue's been resolved. We're good to go from here. Or they still have the ability to submit a ticket from the Teams bot itself. So just like they would in a SharePoint list item, a portal that we're going to show in a second, it still gives them the ability to come in and submit a ticket all from the Teams interface, right? And what I like about it is because it makes us more and more mobile friendly. I love the Teams app for iPhone and Android. I use it all the time. And we get a lot of questions here in the service desk space, the help desk space about your mobile responsiveness, mobile friendliness. This is another example of how we can continue to extend ourselves into that mobile space. So end users can use this from their app on their phone, from their Teams on client like I'm using, or the 365 version of Teams. But basically what we've gotten them to do is, if we kind of throttle back here, is we've collected their name, their email address, phone number, anything you have associated with their AD account or SharePoint user profile. We've gotten them to give us a, albeit short, but description. We've prompted some articles to send at them, and now we've collected their category and their issue type for their ticket. So a ticket has been submitted, request has been submitted, and then it goes to our backend application, our help desk ticketing system, which looks a lot like this. Now, just real quick plug for our marketing team and the nice things they've done. We've adding a new branding option for all of our applications. So this is new. It's a new modern look and feel to our help desk, which is cool. It's reflected upon the QnA color schemes. This will be available shortly. So for those of you who have applications and want the new branding, our existing customers, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll put you guys on that list. But moving forward, this will be our go-to theme and branding for all of our applications. Okay, so ticket gets created, it comes in, and it's workable from the back end. But I just want to touch on the, for those on-prem users who don't have the Teams chat available yet. What we do is we utilize our help desk portal, our self-service portal, our portal system specifically for end users to submit tickets. So what this is, it's a space directly pointed at that group of people who are not going to have access to our back-end site, right? We don't want them to come in and be able to see tickets, edit tickets, problems, and change requests, etc. We want to send them to a space where we can disseminate information and they can request things from us. So whether it's notifications, right? Remote working policies, help desk walkthrough, quick links, an end user guide of the portal, how to VPN in, how to use Teams with help desk, right? Or the ability to submit requests across for specific categories and issue types. And what we've done with these categories and issue types, or these request types on the screen, is basically copied the form URL from the back end and presented it to them so it's specific to the end user portal. So it's still writing into that backend tickets list, that backend incidents list, whatever you want to call it. But now what we've done is we've given them the form and kept them within their own box. And we do have unique securities built in so that even if they do get the backend URL, they're going to be rerouted to this help desk portal page. And you can see the idea is pretty similar, right, as it was on the Teams. What are we doing? We're collecting the user's information. Department, email, phone number. We're getting the title of their ticket, forgot password. We're getting the category and the issue type of the ticket. Well, I think it was the internet. Yeah, I think it went internet. And then any description that they want to pass along to the backend team. That could be screenshots, that could be images, it could be copy and paste, right? It could be rich text. Really, they have the ability to, any information that they want to get across to the team that they can also include attachments here at the bottom. Now, once they hit save, we have a few automated workflows that fire off. And while this is working, while it's thinking, what we're looking at is very heavily Nitro Studio. I'm going to touch on maybe the forms piece at the end, but I do want to highlight some of the areas of Nitro as we work our way through them. So right now we're in the Nitro portal. That's that employee portal, and we are looking at a Nitro form. So when I talked about taking ownership of your application, ownership of your help desk, and really making it yours, this is the Nitro interface. This is the underlying tool set that controls those areas, right? So our forms are configurable, our portals are configurable, and we have some automated workflows that happen out of the box. So when the end user hits submit or save on that ticket, a few things happen. The appropriate backend technician gets an email notification saying a new ticket has been created. Our end users get a notification saying their ticket has been created, and then they get kicked over to this View My Tickets tab. And essentially, what this is, it's a list view web part specific to the end user submitted requests. So again, it's another piece of our Nitro Studio that gives you the ability to pick and choose what columns you're showing in that list that are available to your end user. So let's say you don't want them to see the assigned staff, you just want to see the request status. That's something that we can edit within this this list view web part. But the idea is this: they come to the View My Tickets tab, they can see information that you deem appropriate to them. They can come in, they can look at notes left by the technicians, they can view notes left by they can add notes if you give them the appropriate permissions to add notes for the ticket. It's just basically an area for them to quote unquote self-service, submit tickets, view tickets, etc. Now they can also view KB articles as well. So these are the KB articles that we were pulling for that team spot, right? It's all pulling from one common location, one library in this case, one list. Let's try password, Ryan. So these are the 4 articles, if you remember back to what we saw in the team spot, right? So it's the same 4 articles, it's pulling from that knowledge base list, but now it's within the portal itself. So we're just basically giving you a lot of different options to present to your end users to say, here's how to submit tickets, here's how to view your requests, here's how to view KB articles. With the idea being, hey, let's cut down on emails, let's cut down on phone calls, let's cut down on sending emails with attachments, and try to get our end users to be comfortable working with this interface that ties to the backend IT team. And just like anything in Nitro Studio, you do have the ability to configure it. You can come in and change things like the logo, the footer, the menu section at the top. Like maybe you don't have a service catalog and you want to get rid of it. That can easily be removed. Change the background image or the color scheme, all the way down to the portal forms themselves. So you have the ability to completely take ownership of this particular portal to make it make sense for you guys. Now, like I talked about in the beginning, when we said when we talked about the portal originally, when a ticket is submitted, the appropriate backend technician is notified. So let's focus on that workflow a little bit. So we talked about the emails going off. A ticket is also created, right? A new IT help desk ticket is created, and we want to assign it to a technician automatically. So in the upper right-hand corner of our application, we have this little wrench. That's the application admin center. Looks a little like this. So not only do we have access to our main Nitro apps, that interface we were talking about here, but also the main lists that we use, the main functionality that we use for the help desk itself. So real quick, notifications, you can control what is said to the end user or the technician when a ticket is created, when it's assigned, right? These emails that go out, you can control what the body says, if there's a link to the ticket, if it's request or details, etc. And then under the categorization tab here, we're basically picking and choosing who owns what categories and what issue types. So these are the people that are going to be assigned when a ticket is created under this type. So as you can see, James, for those of you who know him, is the owner of the calendar category. Pavan is the owner of the hardware request category. I'm owner of the hardware problem category. And what happens is that when a request is created under this category and issue type, I'm notified, Pavan's notified. Now you can see here, you can also have a team, right? If you have different groups working within the same help desk, that's also possible. Network group versus incident group, right? Whatever it may be, you can notify a group and then an individual person. You can also do the same process on issue types. Multiple people will be assigned to issue types, and you can set up round robin processes. So really, however you would like to see a ticket or a request assigned, it's up to you. Team, individual person, multiple people, round robin, one person gets the request and they disseminate it out to the appropriate party. Really, that process is going to flow with whatever meets your internal requirements, but it's all going to be done through this backend app admin center. Now, once a ticket is created, we have a few different, or not created, assigned. We have a few different views on how to look at our tickets. So really, for those of you who are real comfortable with SharePoint, we use a lot of different lists, right? This is basically lists and libraries that we've combined and made into an IT help desk. So when it feeds into it, it comes into the tickets list. But no one loves just looking at a SharePoint list, right? SharePoint's bland. So we like to make things more appealing, more fun to work out of from a staff and manager's workspace. So we've created these different dashboards, right? So as you can see, our manager's dashboard is a little bit more report heavy. You can see things like staff load by ticket, open tickets by category and priority, open problems, incoming tickets by month, maybe tickets assigned to me, overdue tasks, everything that you would want to see from a management perspective, all rolled up into one page. We talked about this a little bit on the self-service portal. The idea is the same. In the self-service portal, we're having multiple applications roll up into one page. In this case, it's specific to an IT manager. But you still have the ability to work and view tickets from the screen as well. One plug on our reporting. I don't know how much time I'm going to have to dig into the reporting today, but I do want to talk about it a little bit. If you do have more reporting questions, feel free to shoot those over or schedule time for us to do a more pointed demo specifically for your organization. You can either reach out to me, Scott, or sales@QnA.com. But the reports, these are live. So they're living on the list, they're living on the columns in the application. When information is updated, a ticket changes, the reports will change. What's nice about these is that they're a part of the Nitro Studio, right? They live right here. So you can configure, where am I? Wrong tab. You can configure, create, change reports specific to your organization. The cool thing about this is that not only are they live, but they have the ability to be sent to a person of your choosing at a date and time cadence of your choosing as well. So leveraging the reporting tool and the workflow tool in Nitro Studio, you can say, hey, the first of every month, I want to see all of the tickets by category and issue type from the previous month. Every Friday, I want to see the staff load by ticket. I want to see who's assigned to it, who has the highest workload, what are the most tickets coming in. So those emails are automatically created and sent to that user or that group of users. It doesn't have to be a person, it could be a group or multiple users. And it can either come over as an attachment or a link to this page. But the attachments look a little something like this. I mean, from the reporting interface, you can export to PDF, you can do Excel, you can email, you can print manually from here, or you can leverage that workflow tool to have it be, eliminate the human error a little bit. So instead of having to remind yourself every Friday to escalate and send the report, it just does it automatically for you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about working these tickets. I'm going to close this out real quick because I want to open up our list nav here. I want to talk about some other lists while we open this ticket. So while this is loading, just quickly, we are going to cover asset tracking, contract, software assets in another one of our application webinar series. So I know you guys see that on the left-hand side here. We're not going to have enough time to get to it today, but please feel free to come back and have a look at the applications in our series, which we'll cover here at the end. But right now, we're going to focus on our tickets, our problems, and our change requests as a part of our ticketing system. So I'm in a ticket right now. Pulled up a ticket, I pulled up this list item that was created by email, created by our portal, created by our team spot. I said email and I realized I didn't talk about email at the beginning. I apologize. Let's take a quick sidestep. Very similar to any application that I'm sure you've worked with, or whether you're handling tickets by email now or you're coming from another application, can you create a ticket via email? The answer is unequivocally yes, absolutely. I apologize, I should have covered that sooner. But yes, using our email sync tool in Nitro Studio, again, going back to Nitro, you have the ability to set up a shared inbox or a series of shared inboxes, help desk at, support at, and have end users send emails to those help desks or those shared inboxes and have a ticket created in the help desk. So we have the portal, we have the team spot, and we have the ability to send an email in to create a ticket as well. So email is absolutely a factor here. Okay, so a ticket has been created through one of those avenues, and this is what we're going to look like from a display version. So those familiar with SharePoint, each SharePoint list item, in this case a ticket, has a display version, in an edit version, and a new version. The new version creates a ticket. Right now we're looking at the display version. And what we have in the display version of our ticket is a bit more functionality added into the help desk by way of Nitro Studio. So as you can see, we have a few lists here that tie into it, problems and change requests. Problems, you have the ability to create a problem, like a parent item to a ticket, and link multiple child tickets to that parent problem. Internet's down. And you get 40 tickets about the internet being down. Microsoft is running slow or 365 is running slow because they put in a patch, right? And you get all those tickets related to that one issue. What you can do is you can create a problem, and then when the problem is closed, all the subsequent child tickets will be closed, all of the end users will be notified. So you can start in the problems list and create a new problem that way, plug in your information, or using our custom actions, again, another piece of our Nitro Studio here, what you can do is you can actually create a list item directly in the problems list from the ticket. So we've built a connection to the two different workflows, the two different lists that gives you the ability to add something to that problems list, create a workflow without having to leave the screen that you're in. So as you can see, you can work through the title, you can work through the category and the issue type for this particular problem. If there's an asset related to it, response and a due date, and then the advanced. The tickets associated with this problem, the assigned team, the assigned staff, the work log, right? Any affected components. You hit OK. What happens is that a new problem is created in the problems list, but then we also directly relate that problem to the ticket itself. Internet down, right? So now instead of having to go in and create the problem and then go back and connect the list or tie it in after the fact, it does it automatically for you. The same idea goes with change requests. Change request is its own list independent within the help desk system. If you have a change request team that wants to work entirely out of their change request dashboard, totally fine, right? They have the ability to work out of that list. You can also have the same functionality built into our custom action, just like we do in problems. Create change request custom action, manually fire off that workflow. I think that's the easiest way for me to remember custom actions. It's manually invoked workflows, right? Like the workflow tool is automated. I think the custom actions is a little bit more manual, but it's still a workflow. It just gets to fire off at a date and time cadence of your choosing. But now you can see here, we're pulling up the form on the change request list. We're just tying it to that original ticket. So title, type of change, does it have to go through an approval process? Is it a software upgrade? Yep, help if I could click here. Submit for approval, who's gonna own the change request, description, information associated with the change request, right? Very similar like we talked about with the ticketing form, with the problem form, change request form. These are all configurable. You can add, change, and create columns here. It's just an idea of how it comes out of the box, right? Affected components, cost, rollback options, testing, training requirements, work log, and then again, related tickets, assets, and maybe any tasks associated with that change request. Once you hit OK, approver is going to be notified. The change request approver is going to be notified. And again, this quick sidestep, the change request approval process, it's a little bit more in depth. I'd be happy to talk to anyone in that about their own specific requirements. So if you have a change request process that you want to talk about in more detail, I encourage you to reach out. Come talk to me. We'll do a private demo. We'll talk about how our advanced approval apps can set up change request approvals and workflows. We have some videos we can send you on the topic that have recently been done by a colleague of ours, James, covering that process specifically. But the idea is that approver can be notified. They get a task associated with the change request. They can approve it via email. They can approve it in a task. And then that change request, once it's created, gets assigned to the ticket. So I think that's if you have questions, feel free to pop those into the chat. Scott may be able to answer them now, but if you do want to take a deeper dive into that area, please let us know. We'd be happy to cover it in more detail. But the idea is the same. I mean, this is going to be a common theme across all of our applications. Any webinar you sit in and on with me, any demo you sit in and on with me, the idea is like, let's make this as easy as possible to connect all of our information that we're storing in the help desk from one screen. So if we're in the tickets list, I want to be able to see all problems and change requests associated with that ticket. If I'm in the problems list, I want to see all tickets associated with that problem. If I'm in the change request list, I want to see all the tasks, the approval tasks, and the ticket and all the approvers associated with that change request. So the idea is that from one screen, from one list item, from one interface, we have all of our information at our fingertips. Really make it easy to navigate the help desk system. Okay, last thing in the display form before we jump into actually working the ticket, and it's this email feature. Again, another piece of, I know, broken record, right? But another piece of Nitro Studio. And what it does is it gives you the ability, I mean, simplest form, gives you the ability to create an email and send it to an end user, right? So it's an email template. I equate it to the signatures in Outlook on Client. I'm sure we've all done this working with Outlook for however many years, right? But you create a bunch of different signatures. You get tired of writing the same email over and over again. So you create a signature and you select that signature when you have to, create that email. The idea is the same here, right? You can create different mail templates. Say password reset, because we're talking about passwords. You can select that mail template. It can come from yourself, a no reply, maybe that shared inbox we talked about setting up to submit tickets on. It can go to the requester, really anyone that you want, a user, a group, an outside email address, a user in the column. And then once you hit send, well, you can include attachments. Once you hit send, the idea is simple. It's coming from your Outlook, your outbox. It's going to the end user's inbox. The other thing it's doing, the cool part, is that it's creating its own list item in what we call our email tickets list. And just like we talked about in change requests and problems, right? You have the ability now to link all outgoing and incoming emails to a ticket. So instead of having to look in your Outlook to say, did they respond? Did I respond? Where are we? You tab over to our related items tab, and you can see both the emails that you've sent plus have been received, incoming, I should say, as well as the body of the email. So it saves as its own SharePoint list item, like I said, and it gives you the ability to look at that email without ever having to leave the ticket itself. Huge deal? Maybe not. Depends on how much you live in your Outlook. I live in it a lot. Love it. Love the feature. I think it's great. Right? It's a time saver. So instead of having to toggle screens, go back and forth, I'm in a ticket. I go into Outlook. I see 10 other emails in my Outlook that have stacked up. I get sidetracked. All of a sudden, I forget about the ticket. Right? I'm sure we've all been down that road before. I get sidetracked very easily, so I'm definitely a culprit. I just like that ability to be singularly focused in a ticket, working the ticket, see the email history, be able to act and move from there. Okay, let's go to working the ticket, the fun stuff. So we try to keep everything pretty we've made the ticketing system with ITIL in mind. I mean, Crow Canyon is 21 years old, and the ticketing system was the first application that we had here. So it's matured over time and it has a lot of functionality built into it. Again, this is a Crow Canyon form. So you have the ability to capture different information, change columns, remove columns, add columns on this form. So this cover page, the employee page, is what we're capturing either from the email, from the Teams, from the self-service portal. Name, category and issue type, description, requester information, right? The staff tab is what we talked about during the ticket assignment process. Who's the owner? Who's the staff member that's going to be assigned to this ticket? What's the ticket source? Someone came in through the chatbot, right? We saw it's created. Here it is. Now, due date. Let's talk a little bit about due date. Talk about a little bit about our date column. I'll help if I tab. There we go. So when a ticket is created, when a request is created, we typically see 3 SLAs built in around the date column. They go a little like this. Automatic creation of due date when a ticket is created. So let's say when an email ticket is created, you want it to be set for 2 days out. Definitely possible. You want to notify the technician that he has this ticket or X amount of tickets due today. And then the third is notifying either the technician that now the ticket is overdue. Another possibility we see in that particular, like once the due date is passed, is reassigning the ticket to someone else within the team, or notifying someone in management that, hey, this priority is now high, this ticket hasn't been touched, and it needs to be moved along. So automatic creation of due date when the ticket is submitted, notifying the technician when the due date is coming due, and then some sort of process when the ticket is overdue, whether it's notifying the technician again, reassigning the ticket, or notifying the next manager in line, next person in line that, hey, this ticket hasn't been touched. Okay, when the ticket's ready to be closed, we have a resolution. Now, these are SharePoint columns. These are just drop downs, right? We can add in as many choices as we want here. Let's say end user education going with our forgot password theme. A resolution notes box pops up. This is a rich text column. Much like the description column in our employee portal, they can screenshot, they can include images, they can copy and paste. Whatever information that they want to send to the end user, they have the ability to do so from this box. Now, what's cool about this is that it can be automatically sent when the ticket is saved, when request status equals closed, and the resolution notes field is filled out. They hit save. This is going to be sent to the email, or it's going to be sent via email to the end user automatically, and it's also going to be viewable for the end user in their View My Tickets tab. So even if a resolution has been sent, the end user can still go back and look at previous tickets, previous submitted tickets. So it doesn't go away for them. They still have the ability to view it. But what's cool about the resolution notes field, not only do you have that automated workflow built in to notify the end user, takes another like task, quote unquote, task off your plate. But what you can do is you can come over to our knowledge base tab and you can create a knowledge base article from that resolution notes field. What happens is it turns it into a SharePoint wiki page and it updates your KB article library under the category and the issue type of the ticket. So as you can see here, we can add knowledge base articles to tickets, or you can create KB articles from tickets. So for those of you who maybe are not using knowledge base articles right now, or maybe you want to, right? It's something that you've talked about or something that you want to put in place. We get a lot of positive feedback from our users. I hear it all the time, our clients, our customers, about how this feature gives them the ability to build their knowledge base article library, gives them the ability to beef up like their self-service, right? We keep coming back to that same topic, but if you think back to the beginning of the demo when we were talking about team spots, we're pulling from that KB article library, right? The information that we showed using that chat is pulling directly from that KB article library. So the more robust that knowledge base article library is, the more KB articles we add and we use to it, the better the Teams integration is going to be. The better the interaction with the employees on the self-service portal is going to be, right? The easier it is to apply quick fixes to tickets. So instead of having to retype that information, save it in another third-party site like OneDrive, things like that, it's all self-contained within the help desk. It's all easily added through a simple workflow that we've created on the ticket itself. Related items, we've touched on a lot of it, at least. Email history, change requests, problems, right? The last thing I want to talk about is this task feature. In my mind, I equate it to very similar to like ticket is the problem, right? Problem's the parent item, ticket is the child item. Very similar here, right? Except in this case, the ticket is the parent item, the task is the child item. So if you have a task that needs to be completed before the parent item, in this case, the ticket needs to be closed, you have the ability to create and assign that task to anyone within the space. Anyone within your organization, I should say. It doesn't have to be technician specific, it can be, but it just gives you the ability to assign someone a task. You know, maybe it's reset Ryan's password. And we're gonna put it for today, and we'll assign it to Scott. Hey Scott, Ryan's a dummy and forgot his password again. Do you mind resetting it for him? Right? So it just gives you the ability to have communications, assign tasks, track those tasks. Again, it all works towards collecting as much information as we can on the ticket, justifying why we need a help desk system, why it's in place. We can go back and say, no, hey, Ryan, we reset your password on this day at this time. Here it is. Here's the notes associated with it, right? Gives you the ability to go back and say, no, this was done, the time it was done, and you can pull reports on any of the information within the ticketing system. Work log. So work log is internal notes, right? It's just the ability to pass information back and forth between technicians. So, you know, when you add in a note here, again, this is a column that we can include screenshots, copy and paste images, things like that. But mainly it's just like, you know, I did this at this time. And it's just going to date and timestamp who said it, when they said it, what they said when they did it. Communication between technicians. Now, time tracking. So SharePoint itself, or 365, SharePoint on-prem, it's never going to be a system, or at least I don't think so. You know, I could be wrong with Microsoft, you never really know, but the idea is that it's never going to be a system where you can log in and say, oh, you know, Ryan was in the ticket system and he spent 10 minutes on this ticket and he spent 45 minutes on that ticket and, you know, an hour on this ticket, right? It's never going to intuitively know that where my focus and time went, right? That's not the intent behind SharePoint. But we understand that's important to the help desk system. So what we've done is we've created another child to parent list setup here. So right, in this case, again, we're talking about the ticket list being the parent list, the time tracking list being the child list. So what we do is we give your technicians the ability to create a time log against a particular ticket. Let's just say, you know, reset password. Let's say I did it. Oh, that's right. I'm admin in this. Help if I remembered. And let's say it took me 5 minutes. So now when we look at this from a, you know, hierarchy perspective, we can see like all the time spent on this ticket and the cumulative time spent here at the bottom. So we have a calculation set up to say, okay, between the two time logs, they spent 50 minutes on this particular ticket. So it's a nice workaround. We use it a lot internally. We've seen a lot of customers use it. It's a really nice piece. And one thing that's come up recently, we've worked our way through the ticket, but one thing I want to plug quickly here is that we've had a few people ask us recently about remote assistance. And that's a very important piece of a help desk system, something that we didn't really have support for until very recently. But for those of you familiar with Quick Assist, now what we have is the ability to integrate with Quick Assist. So, you can assist another person, you can take control of their screen through Quick Assist. This is enhancing our abilities to have remote access with our technicians and our end users. So not only do we have an extension into your Office 365 environment, into your Teams environment, right? Really taking advantage of the investment you've made into 365, but now we have the ability to also do remote screen shares as well. So we're starting to paint that picture as a complete help desk solution, right? Okay, so let's just quick recap. Talking about top to bottom. Ticket is submitted. The appropriate technician is notified that a ticket has been assigned to them. They can come in and work the ticket. From the ticket interface, they can assign problems, they can create problems, they can create change requests, and they can view so from their ticket screen, right? So we talked about the end user interface, right? The portal, the chatbot, right? Maybe an email. We've talked about the technician interface, those who work the ticketing system, work the problems, work the change request, right? The views that we have here. Let's talk a little bit more about that admin side, that Nitro side, that third level. All right, so any application that I've seen or that I've heard people talk about, it really breaks down into those three levels: end user, technician, admin. We don't want everyone coming in and being able to change the back end, right? So again, focusing on the wrench here, we have some things in our product app built that are easy to change: ticket assignment, notifications. If you truly want to take ownership of your application, if you really want this to be a good stepping off point for you to create an IT system specific to your organization, Crow Canyon Nitro Studio is going to be the way that you do it. I always suggest a Nitro training to anyone who wants to use and leverage our applications, because we go in depth into everything you see on the screen here. And through the app, through the process, we've talked a lot about a lot of these features already, right? You can see how Nitro has its fingers in the help desk application: workflows, reports, portal, branding, services, email sync, email manager, custom actions, list view, list search. So if you're fine with the way the tool works out of the box, that's great. That's awesome. I'm super happy that we've put a tool in place that's going to help your needs right now. But if you want to go down, say 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years down the road, you want to say, hey, it's going to be really awesome. It'd be really awesome if the tool did this, if I could add this in. Understanding and leveraging Nitro is going to give you the power to do so. So let's take a quick look at what I mean. I talk about forms. Most of these webinars, when we talk about Nitro Studio, I bring up forms because anytime when we interact with an item in SharePoint, we're talking about the form itself, right? We've discussed that already with the problems, the tickets, the change requests. So what's cool about our forms tool, different than maybe some others out there, is that we're writing on a specific list. So we're not worried about tying a form to a user. We're not worried about tying a Power App to a particular person. I create a Power App and then I leave, I get sick, and I'm out for 2 weeks and the Power App needs to be changed and it's tied to my user account, right? You don't have to worry about that. As long as you have access to Nitro Studio, you have the ability to change the forms within the site. So what I can do is I can come down and I can select my tickets form, my tickets list, and I can change the form that we were just working with in the ticket space. So you can see in my opinion, we've really thought of everything from the form designer perspective. It's really cool. Classic and modern. For those of you in 365 or 2019 and you're working on the modern UI, available. You can create multiple forms per SharePoint list. So you're not stuck with just one form. Maybe you have a hardware request form that you want to funnel into the tickets list as well. Possible. Under our advanced settings, you have the ability to export out lists and settings and re-import them into another list. Hey, well, maybe this is a little bit more pointed for using Nitro as a tenant-wide or a farm-wide system. That's also a possibility. We do some info path replacement, so Nitro Studio as a standalone, but it's still this could be pointed in any application. What you can do is you can take the form settings and the list settings from the list that I'm in, pull it out into an XML file and re-import it into another list. So instead of having to start from scratch, now we've created a list template, a list form to work off of. So if you know you're going to go in and you're going to create a list in a form and it's going to have these 10 columns on it, you're going to replicate it 5 times. You have the ability to save that and re-import it so it cuts down on work. It's like creating a forms library, right? Creating a forms history. Let's talk about changing the form now. So for those of you who've sat in on demos with me or webinars with me, like you kind of understand my perspective on this, but in my opinion, I see our forms design tool as 3 different levels. Sometimes I feel like that's lost a little bit in some of our other form design tools out there, maybe even Microsoft in some cases. It's very developer heavy, very developer friendly. Now we have development tools in our form designer as well, but in my opinion, the intention is that we can also point our form design, our form changing, our configuration to departmental levels as well. So maybe you have a SharePoint team running your SharePoint farm, but you still want your IT team to be able to come in and make changes to the form. Now you can do that. The first level is like the UI UX, how the form looks and feels. So you could do simple things like changing the tab color, changing the background color, right? Simple plug and play things that can make a form look specific to your organization, to your department. You can come in and you can create a global theme and say, okay, you know what? I want the font family to be Arial, and I want the padding to be this, and I want the font color to be that, and then I can apply this new theme that I've created across all the forms in my IT help desk. So it really gives you the ability to plug and play with how the form looks and feels. Now, from a developer side, if you had a CSS that you wanted to apply to your form, that's possible as well, right? So you can already see like user-friendly to development side, starts to play with both, but gives you the ability to plug and play, create, change. Now, from a form design perspective, we tried to make it as drag and drop as possible. So creating new tabs on our form, pull it over and plug it in. Now, like I was talking about, this is written on a particular list, this form, our tickets list, right? So what I have here under form controls is all of the columns available in that SharePoint list. So any column created on that SharePoint list is available in the form controls. So let's say if I search date, there's our due date, there's our assigned date, right? Date columns that we've seen within the form. So once you find the column of your choosing, all you need to do is drag and drop that column into the form where you want it, right? Try to make it as plug and play, as WYSIWYG as possible. You can do things like cool SharePoint things. Now the second level, cool SharePoint things like edit columns that already exist. So you have a column created already. It can be edited from the form designer. You can create columns from the form designer. So again, very SharePoint standard, but we're not having to leave the screen that we're in to go to the list or the list settings to create and modify columns. It's all done from one screen, going back to that kind of reoccurring arcing theme of everything from one interface. You can do things like convert column types to attachments. We can connect, continue with that apply. We can connect multiple lists together using our associated item feature. You can also apply and put in unique permissions on tabs and columns within the form. So if you only want certain people to see a tab, if you only want certain people to see a particular column or have information on a particular column, that's possible as well. So the idea is that it can be very complex if you want it to be, right? But the idea is like the first level is create a column, drag a column over. Second level is SharePoint heavy, permissions, validations, form event actions, querying lists, creating connections to lists. And then the third level being more advanced, maybe injecting custom JavaScript on a form, maybe calling out to external data columns, right? Leveraging Nitro's REST API services to connect your help desk to other third-party tools, right? Do you hate duplicate data entry? I mean, I know I do. I don't like to have to type things more than once, right? So let's set up a connection to that third-party tool and push or pull information into an area of the help desk that's going to be pointed for you guys, right? So look and feel, SharePoint specifics, all the way down to the developer level. Gives you the ability, again, to give yourself complete control of your application. Last thing here, you can actually preview what the form looks like before you publish it. Gives you an idea of how it looks like on a laptop, like we're viewing it today, an iPad, or an iPhone. Now, those advanced users, the folks who really understand how to use like our table layouts, table themes, how to create columns, can really take our forms tool and run with it. James Restivo, I'm sure a few of you know him, but a colleague of ours had created this W4 form on our help desk site, and it just gives you an idea of what you can do from a complexity and design perspective with our Nitro forms. Again, just coming back to the main idea of, hey, this is here, it's living in the help desk site, it's not an additional cost, and it gives you the ability to make this help desk look and feel the way you want it to. Now, we still have, and I don't want to undercut the functionality of the tool. Everything I showed you today is included out of the box, all the way from the portal to the ticket creation, problem creation, working, changing those, change requests, etc. All I'm saying is that if requirements change, or if you want to tweak something during the original setup process, having Nitro Studio as the underlying tool set, as that backbone of our applications, is going to give you the ability to do so. Well, guys, that brings us to the end of our demo. If you want to know more about anything that we discussed today, whether the ticketing system, how the ticketing system applies to you, more in depth on Nitro itself, maybe a deeper dive into the forms, the approvals and change requests that we talked about, or if you're interested more in those AI services and that the bot presentation Scott's going to do on Thursday, I suggest that you guys reach out. We're always happy to do a private demo or have a private conversation as opposed to just doing this all via webinar. Speaking of webinars, where's my little screen here? This is just the second level of our, engaging your remote workforce webinar series. Last week we did in self-service portal. This week, obviously, help desk. Next week, we're talking about purchase and contract management. The following, onboarding and HR. The last week is asset management. Again, the idea of leveraging your 365 environment as your platform of choice. Trying to have all of your business processes in one place. I think it's a massive benefit without going too far into it. I know we're at the end of our time period here, but all we're doing is giving you a peek under the covers of what you can do with 365. It help you cut down on the numbers of passwords assigned to applications, things like that. It's really taking advantage of the platform that you've invested in. And I hope that you guys can join us throughout the entire webinar series. But again, like I said, if you have questions specifically about the help desk, want a private demo, be happy to do so. That being said, we got about 6, 7 minutes left. Scott, I'm gonna pull you back in here. Were there any questions that need to be answered that you want to cover, or?
Not really too many, but just more about workflows and that we can notify people when notes are added. Changes are made to the ticket, such as notes are added or there's some update to the ticket. We can certainly go into our Nitro workflows and start to make that as make as many workflows as you want, do whichever you want it to do, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, that's actually something I should have talked about briefly, but Scott brings up a good point. Whoever asked that question is, adding, when a note is added, can a technician be notified? Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the things like that typically come up, maybe that I didn't show, we are either built in out of the box, or it's something that we've run across with other companies, with other customers that we've worked with. So this is something that we have a KB article on. We'd be happy to send to that user after the fact. But it's either, it's an out of the box feature. It's something that we can, point you in the right direction on how to set up, or we could help you set up during the installation implementation process.
Okay, good. Great. Good. Other than that, there weren't too many questions, but people can always contact us directly.
Yeah, my email is, do we have this one up here?
Yeah, sales@QnA. There you go.
Yeah, that's me. I work the box, Scott works the box. If you have any questions, shoot them over. You can call us directly. We'd be happy to do a more personalized private demo for you guys. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Scott, I appreciate you coming in and answering questions and helping out, and we'll hopefully talk to everybody soon.
Thank you, Ryan. Good.
Thanks, guys.